Hi, I'm Elisa Parker, your host of the Wild and Scenic Film Fest Media Lounge. It is, I don't know if you knew this, but it's the largest film festival of its kind. We are based right here in Nevada City, California. Only 3,000 people live in our hometown, but during this weekend, thousands and thousands of activists, environmental action heroes, filmmakers, everyday extraordinary people come together to get inspired, share their stories, hear the stories, participate in workshops about how to make a difference on our planet. And Shaun is certainly one of these guys who is making a difference in an adventurous kind of way. Shaun Carrigan, and it is stories of the Pacific Crest Trail, tales from the Pacific Crest Trail, right?
Tell the mountain tales from the Pacific Crest Trail.
Okay, now you did tell it from the mountain.
Yeah.
He's just, it's late and you're throwing a
curveball
at me.
Here we go.
Anyway, Shaun, it's great to have you here with us at the Wild Scenic Film
me.
Fest. Yeah, have you been here before?
This is my first time. I've been through Nevada City shooting the film, actually.
Yeah.
I've probably slept in the back of my truck in this town illegally. Don't tell anyone. But it's my first time actually here at the festival. It's great.
How would you describe the Wild and Scenic Film Fest?
You know, I came into town and I was walking by someone, and I had just come from the Bay Area, and somebody looked up and said, "Hi, how are you?" in the warmest, kindest voice I'd heard. It just kind of slapped me in the face. I said, "Oh, that's right, I'm in small town, happy America."
Totally, it's so like that. In the city, it's like we just get these blinders.
Exactly.
So you really escaped the blinders when you, in addition to creating this film, I mean, you've walked and hiked the Pacific Crest Trail. At least, what, 1,200 miles?
About 1,200 miles of the trail for just personal enjoyment and pleasure.
Because who doesn't do that for enjoyment and pleasure? Honey, I'll be back. I'm going to go hike 1,200 miles today.
And then for the film itself, I probably hiked about 200 miles of it with backpacking gear and the camera gear.
So tell us, there are people here maybe on the East Coast who don't know how far the Pacific Crest PCT spans.
Right. So everybody knows about the Appalachian Trail on the East Coast. It's about 2,200 miles. And then on the West Coast, we have the Pacific Crest Trail. And the PCT is actually 2,663 miles, goes through California, Oregon, and Washington. And in theory, it stays on the Pacific Crest, as in the highest mountains on the West Coast.
So what inspired you to do this film?
You know, it was a personal experience that I came from. I went on a hike with a friend, and our bond got a lot deeper. We had these incredible experiences that just kind of came out of nowhere. Everything from being out of water for 20 miles and having to deal with the adversity of that. We were talking about every day about having these blinders on. And really, you know, that happens every day too, right? And so these days sometimes will fly by. We wake up, we get our coffee, we go to work, we drive, we just do the normal everyday things. We watch TV, whatever it is, and a day goes by. You know, sometimes those days can turn into weeks and months, and all of a sudden it's a year later and it flies by. The PCT, the experience out there, you are living every single day to the fullest. You are dealing with blisters, you are dealing with making great new friends, you are worried about the black bears that might be down the trail, you are climbing a mountain, you know, you name it, you're doing it. And you know, people say being in the moment, you're really in the moment the entire time.
Yeah, you're totally present. You can't just like space out and zone out.
That's right.
Because it's initially comes down to your safety and survival at certain times. Off the air, we were talking a little bit about the relationships, and so the film is really about individuals who are on the PCT.
Right.
And how even though in some cases, even if you're doing this on your own, how the people, the relationships that you make are often people in our everyday lives. This is why it's so important to get out and step out of your comfort zone in something like this. There are people that you typically would never even associate with.
Right.
Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Sure. So a college buddy and I were doing a 160-mile section. Basically, we did from Mount Lassen to Mount Shasta. Relatively short section, but a beautiful area. And we were going to Chico State at the time. We were having a little too much fun, dropping into towns, going to the bars for a little too much, and then continuing to hike. Partying down the trail, if you will. And we ended up meeting a professor from Kansas State, and we found out he was a pastor, the most straight-laced gentleman I'd probably ever met in my life. And the three of us became fast friends and counted on each other for finding water supplies, for making sure that we were going the right way down the trail. At one point, we were using our ice axes in an area, and he was helping us out. It was a pretty incredible experience in that you could bond that quickly with people.
So how do you translate that experience now, Shaun, to connecting with everyone here when you're sharing these specific stories, about why it matters to all of us.
Sure. So I think, the film really is about inspiring people. We followed 8 different characters at different times, their life, their stories, the reasons why they're doing it. And a lot of the reason why I made this film was because people always said, well, why would you go do this? I am notorious for getting ridiculous blisters on the bottom of my feet. And so part of the first couple weeks of me hiking is torturous. And people would say, why? And I think I wanted to answer that question. And so that's what I kind of made the film about. And really it was about people trying to challenge themselves, about getting in touch with themselves, figuring out the meaning of life. People had religious questions that went on this journey. And so, for me, it was watching these people, these average everyday Joes in many cases. And Janes, absolutely. Go down that road to, and we went with the name of that's fantastic. And we went down that road of really telling these stories of these average everyday people going after their dreams. And that was just so important and exciting because anybody who can walk down the street and has $3,000, $4,000 and has 6 months of their life, they can go after their dream too on the Pacific Crest Trail. So it's a pretty incredible, unique experience that, we were talking earlier about a friend of yours that had climbed Mount Everest a number of times.
Yeah.
Very few people have the $30,000 and the athletic ability to be able to do that. This is just walking up and down a trail, filling up your water bottle every once in a while, and just staying at it.
So, what would you say to everyone about why it's so important to come and participate in an event like the Wild and Scenic Film Fest?
Again, I'd say it was the warmness of everyone being here and really the inspiration. And, I'm actually I signed up for Circle earlier today, and it just reminds me of all the things that I don't necessarily see on an everyday basis that are happening all over the country and all over the world.
Shaun, could you complete this sentence for me? What empowers me is?
Motivation, inspiration, being in the moment.
Shaun is in the moment with this right here at the Wild and Scenic Film Fest. I want to thank you so much, Shaun,
Absolutely.
for
Thank you
coming
for having
in.
me.
I love that. And it's just encouraging everyone to get out there. If you don't want to go 1,200 miles, start with 5 and see how that goes for you. And
do 10.
Do 10. All right, Shaun says 10. All right, I'm going to do that. I'm going to get out. You encouraged me, inspired me to get back out and backpack with the kids.
Wonderful.
Thanks. I'm Elisa Parker. It's the Wild and Scenic Film Festival. Thanks so much for joining us. And we're going to be back live tomorrow, 10 o'clock.
Thank you.